Hey, worship band, welcome back for this second edition of Music Theory for Worship Band. Last time we talked about meter, we talked about simple meter, we talked about compound meter, strong beats, weak beats. Today we're going to talk about the beats themselves, or in other words, rhythm. So I want to show you this chart that shows us what rhythm would be like if we were counting to four, or common time, 4/4 time signature. At the top, we have what's called a whole note. A whole note would get all of the beats for that time signature. So we get four beats. We count and hold one, two, three, four, and we play one long note. Now we can divide that long note, that whole note, into smaller bits, and that's what this chart does. So the first level down shows us what's called half notes. This first half note on this side would get all of beats one and two. In other words, we'd hold down beat one and two, one, two, and this last half note would get all of beat three and four, three, four. But we can divide the rhythm out even further. We can take these half notes and break those down into quarter notes. So this chart shows that this first half note can be broken down into two quarter notes where we just count one, two, and then for the last one we count three, four. But we can break that down even further to what's called eighth notes. And each eighth note gets one half of one beat. So don't be confused. It's not a half note, but an eighth note gets half or zero point 0.5 of one beat. So you can see that for this quarter note, the first one, there are two eighth notes. And for this quarter note, there are two eighth notes because it's half and half would account for the whole beat. And so if you think back to your elementary or middle school music days, you would count this one and two and three and four and that's how that would work. So that's just a really brief reminder of how beats work and rhythms work. But let's take a look at a different chart that shows us how that works in simple meter and compound meter. At the top, we have simple duple or 2/4. We talked about that last week. That means there are two beats per measure. And this shows us that a quarter note gets one beat. So there are two quarter notes right there that show us we would count to one, two. It's pretty simple. That's why it's called simple duple. And if we were to divide that out into eighth notes, we could count one and two and, kind of like it shows on the chart. But there's also compound duple or 6/8. There's still two beats, and that's represented on this chart by the dotted quarter notes. There's still one, two. But if we were to break down each of those dotted quarter notes into smaller bits, because it's compound meter, we would use eighth notes and we would have the three eighth notes grouped together. One, two, three, four, five, six. That's compound duple. Next is simple triple or 3/4, and that's represented on the chart by these three quarter notes. One, two, three. Or if you were to divide that out, since it's simple time, we'll still use eighth notes, but remember it's just half a beat each. One and two and three and. Next up is compound triple. That's 9/8 time signature. So there are still three beats, but they're represented by these dotted quarter notes. One, two, three. But if we were to break down each one of those beats, it would sound like this. So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Up next is simple quadruple or 4/4. That's common time. And we've talked about that already on the other chart. Here are quarter notes, one, two, three, four. Or we could divide that out further and count one and two and three and four and. And last is compound quadruple. There's still four beats. They're represented by these dotted quarter notes. And if we were to break those down to their subpulses, we'd have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12. Well, there you have it. that is a reminder of what you learned probably a long time ago, but it really applies to our worship band setting. The question is, who carries the rhythm? Which instruments carry the rhythm? And what type of rhythms do you play? So, in worship band setting, there are really two instruments that carry or dominate the rhythm, and that's the kick drum and the drum kit. Remember, the kick drum is on the strong beats. 1, 2, 3. And the other instrument that's carrying the rhythm is the bass guitar. So the bass guitarist's job is to try to match up with the kick drum and emphasize those strong beats. So what about everything else? Well, the other drums and cymbals and the drum kit are just kind of like the icing on the cake. The snare drum plays on the weak beats, beat 2 and beat 4. You've got the hi-hat that's sometimes accentuating the eighth note, or maybe the ride cymbal that's accentuating the eighth note. The acoustic guitar emulates that and plays usually on the eighth note, kind of like the hi-hat and the ride cymbal. What about the piano? The piano in a worship band setting is just filling in the gaps. So lots of long notes, and when the singing line is finished and there's a gap in what's going on, the piano player may be able to play a little flourish. Same thing with an electric guitar. The electric guitar is playing flourishes in the gaps, not all the time, because the thing that's driving the rhythm is the kick drum and the bass guitar. And then everything else is icing on the cake. And we're running out of time, but I would say that when you're thinking about rhythm, you're thinking about the parts of the song. Like, where do I play a full rhythm and where do I play long notes? Well, usually the intro to a song has more rhythm in it, and then the verse of a song backs off. There's less rhythm in the verse. We're singing all these words. Then, if there's a pre chorus, that kind of is building. So the rhythm kind of builds up a little bit, and the rhythm is usually full in the chorus. And that's a pretty typical pattern for worship songs. So I hope this little reminder about rhythm has been helpful for you as we think about music theory and how it impacts what we do with worship band as we lead the church to worship the one true God. See you next time.